Stranger Things is finally over after nearly a decade of mysteries, monsters, and Hawkins nostalgia. 5 seasons ended with a bang on New Year's Eve, and I loved it. Mostly, but if you watched all 8 episodes and thought, wait, why did they over explain everything? You are not alone. Hello, y'all. Welcome to CD Talks, where we don't just talk about movies, TV, and culture, but we talk about what they teach us in life. Season 5 of Stranger Things wanted to be huge. Lost armies, wormholes, world ending magic, emotional finales. Netflix wanted volume, spectacle, and heart, and in many ways, it delivered. But underneath the giant monsters and wormhole theories, there were some growing pains that made the story feel a little bit over explained. I am doing a faceless video because my battery is dead and I can't get it to come on. So this sucks. But nevertheless, today we're talking about when the finale tries to do too much and why that can dilute danger, and how even imperfect storytelling can still stick the emotional landing. Let's talk acting, not about who is good. When the writing leaves actors little to play with, a lot of this falls on Mike Wheeler's arc. There are some moments where his emotional beats felt flat, like he was reacting to exposition rather than the driving scene. For example, when Will was explaining that he was coming out, I could not really get the emotional expression felt for Mike's character. He just kind of felt like he was there. As well as when Elle is in the dream sequence with Mike, you can kind of tell the difference in, I don't want to say ability, but the way it was delivered in the script. So for me in that moment, it only really landed on Elle's side because we saw how much she's gone through. But as far as the relationship that they've had, this season really didn't highlight that. So for that moment, the weight didn't really stick the landing for me on that. Which is really wild because for 4 seasons, Mike was essentially angry boyfriend leader, and now he's mostly window dressing in his own friendship group. And look, I'm not throwing shade at Finn Wolfhard. He's been terrific since day one, but when the script turns the leads into glorified narrators, even good acting can feel muted. Oh man, this one was a big one for me. The wormhole situation. The Upside Down being revealed as a wormhole between dimensions is potentially a massive sci fi concept, but in execution, it felt like dangling onions on a hook. The mystery was teased but never quite dug into the mechanics or implications. We hear the lore, but we rarely feel it. Now, I will say the final battle scene was pretty amazing, but it would have been nice to explore that world a little bit more. It's like they said, here y'all go, big dimension reveal, and then forgot to write the chapter where we actually explore the dimension. Look, less mystery can be fine if emotion carries the weight. But when every answer comes with 3 or more exposition dumps, you start wondering if the Upside Down is actually just a TV writer's conference room whiteboard. It's like they just want to hold our hands throughout the whole TV show instead of just trusting that the viewership can understand. And then even from that point, we could just come up with our own theories and have fun with the TV show. This season leaned very hard on information dumps. I mean, so much lore on screens, chalkboards, and conversations that sometimes felt like it was watching a supernatural PowerPoint presentation. There were moments where Hawkins felt less like a town and more like a research lab for a meta explanation. If someone handed me a VHS tape labeled Stranger Things 5, the lore edition, I'd believe it. Now, I mean, explanations can be great, they give context and weight, but when the show pauses every emotional beat to explain itself, you sort of feel the danger losing its grip. This brings us to something else. The danger felt optional. People kept dying, but not the ones you expect. And somehow every core character survived every trap, bus, explosion, or monster claw. Like, I mean, Holly's mom should have not came out of that hospital bed. In the final season built around stakes, it often felt like the only real danger was, will they come back after the break, instead of, is someone actually gone? So with that, without the feeling of loss or danger, it ends up having to have so many characters and plot lines to keep up with, and then it feels kind of clustered. But here's where season 5 really does shine. It centers on what makes the show matter, and that's the relationships. You know, Eleven and Mike's goodbye, Max and Lucas's relationship, Henry's emotional damage from what happened when he was younger. All those things really did leave an impact on me, and those scenes really did have a heavy weight to it, especially Henry. He really didn't have any control over this evil entity that instilled upon him. It was something he came across, and that once it got a hold of him, it didn't let him go because essentially it was a parasite that took over him, and a parasite needs a host, and Henry was the host that unfortunately had his downfall with him ended up becoming Vecna. And that right there is just a tough pill to swallow because he didn't have a choice. It it chose him. Sure, yeah, some plot threads feel rushed, undercooked, and yes, some moments lean into exposition more than emotion. But when characters connect in a real way, Stranger Things really remembers who it is. I was really looking forward to Will and Elle coming together to fight against Vecna, and they did somewhat deliver on that sense, but I believe with the over explaining and the unnecessary points that we didn't need to see, it put some of that stuff that could have been highlighted aside. Despite its flaws, the season ends with hope. The chaos of the Upside Down is resolved, major arcs are given room to breathe in the epilogue, and we get a sense of closure that feels earned. And I mean, honestly, very well done. That's not easy after 5 seasons of escalating mythology that they're coming up with. Now, it might not be Breaking Bad to where it's satisfying in its ending. It might not blow your mind, but it feels like a hug after a long, scary night. And what I've learned from Stranger Things is that Hawkins isn't just a town, it's a feeling. It's one that's deserved of a goodbye and worth remembering. Man, the ending scene where Mike is doing the storytelling after they're playing Dungeons and Dragons was done so well, man. I mean, it really just goes to show how impactful the relationships are and what it means to them. And it's just something so sacred and beautiful that Mike was highlighting throughout his whole storytelling. So yeah, it had quibbles, pacing, exposition, and the danger sometimes felt like a suggestion. But even with all that, season 5 delivered on some of the most heartfelt payoffs and in the show's entire run. It's flawed for sure, but it lands in the emotional beats. And for a series that has been with us for years, that was a wonderful way to say goodbye. I will say this isn't my favorite season, but the way it concluded its story, I believe was done in a satisfying way. If you loved it or hated parts of it or just want to argue about Mike's choices, drop it in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I've got more deep dives on your favorite shows right here on CD Talks.